Hey guys, it's Matt. I do a Why the Economic Collapse Never Comes video about once a year. We'll just call this the 2021 version. It's not much different than the others. Maybe somebody else called it or put it the way I'm about to explain it, but I don't believe anybody else did. And I believe I started saying this at least 4 years ago, probably a little bit longer, but I'm not exactly sure of the timing. I just know I've been doing this every year and the message is about the same. So it's appropriate. I get back from Target where a roll of paper towels is almost $20. It, it's paper. It's paper rolled up. It's almost $20. What? And they've shrunk the size to make it smaller so they can get under that key $20 price point. Guys, I'll be very brief. I'll do a lot of, or I'll talk, we'll ponder a lot of things and do the details on the back end. Not that I have all the answers on the back end, but we'll ponder how certain things are working. But this front end, I'll just present the basics. As I said, I think over 4 years ago, there's no other way it can be working than this. So we'll do very, very basic, and then if anybody wants to stick with me for the back end, and real basic. Um, I don't know when it happened. It doesn't really matter pointing to the day it happened. Let's just say 15 years ago, whatever. They completely removed natural supply and demand. And this is all my opinion. I don't think it can work any other way. If the economy worked as your college professor says it does, if the stock market worked the way they always told you it was, or the way banks lend from each other with LIBOR and all that, it would have melted down a long, long time ago. We'd have already been through 1929, the Great Depression times 10, and we'd be coming out of it at this point. But who knows how bad the carnage could have been. At some point, they moved whatever was left of a real market in terms of real supply and demand elements, they moved it into a computer. Literally moved the entire economy, in my opinion, into a supercomputer's simulation or into a sidebar program running inside the program in the sentient world simulation inside the WhopR computer inside Silver Palace and War Games. I don't know. It doesn't matter. The point is, we have to emphasize the basics. Remember, in My Cousin Vinny, he was like identical. the two lime green GM cars, identical to the jury. The point is, um, they moved a real economy or whatever was left of a real economy into a digital simulation. Who knows when? It doesn't matter when. So that means the elements of the economy are not real. It simply operates inside of a virtual video game or a supercomputer. Now, what does that mean? It means the proof of that is nothing has failed. I guess we should talk about that on the back end. But it means that whenever a large company is about to fail, this is all my opinion. I don't think it can work any other way. Um, uh, Ford was about to fail. Who knows? I think I used that company last time I talked about this, if I remember correctly. Use a different company, Target. I don't know. I was just at Target. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to single out any specific company. I think 50 of them have failed, probably in the last year or two, or three or four, whatever. But the computer that manages the economy, which is all tied in to the central banks, in my opinion, will give them an injection of whatever they need. They're about to fail. They need $80 million by the morning, or they can't turn the lights on and can't bring employees back to work. In my opinion, they miraculously get the $80 million. The point is, without getting into the details, this computer, in my opinion, can inject cash wherever it wants in an unlimited fashion. Now, if anybody's new here going, well, where does it get the money? It doesn't need it. It can make up whatever it wants itself. I don't think anybody's even sitting at a computer making up the money on a computer. The banks could always, this is no new model, they could always make up the money for your loan. The banks never had the money for your loan. This model's has been around for 100 years. There's nothing new or conspiratorial here. So the central supercomputer simply injects cash, not to individual companies in the United States, all around the world, including municipalities. You don't think Philadelphia City Hall's failed 10 times in the last 10 years? It probably fails every year, and it gets what it needs. Um, there's no other way to explain what's going on. In other words, in my opinion, it has to be working like this. So let me get through the basics, and then we'll ponder things like, or the proof of why it has to be working like this. What, like Scranton and many municipalities were failing miserably uh, 6, 7, 8 years ago, but now now they're not. Well, what corrected it? Nothing. There's nothing on the ground that changed. They all would have failed because of the amount of debt and pension loads and all of the stuff that they have, which doesn't isn't offset by their tax revenue. So I eliminated that last section because I never deliver on what I say in terms of the basics. I start straying, going down here, going down there. Maybe that's fun to do, but on the back end, not now. So the absolute basics of what I think's going on, because I don't think there's any other way to explain it. All right. At some point, who knows when, real market forces of supply and demand were replaced by a supercomputer of some kind, and we'll call this is it. Okay, it's cat litter. This is it. We'll put it right up here. Get it in the camera. This is the WhopR from War Games. The WhopR from War Games managed simulations regarding, you know, the strategic launch of nuclear weapons and armies and war and whatever. This is the world simulation for the economy. But in my opinion, they made it live. It's live now. So there are probably, in my opinion, multiple corporations that have failed where they can't turn the lights on in the morning. They don't have enough to cover payroll. This thing will automatically inject the money they need so they can do business the next day and the lights come on. And what's genius about it is nobody, um, other than maybe just a few people in the company, are even aware of it. They simply get what they need and things continue on. I don't think there's any other way to explain. Let me see if you want ever, if this is going to be the sentient world simulation that manages the World Economic Center, we probably should be able to see it in the video. This is actually it. Um, so we heard 7, 8, 10 years ago about all these municipalities failing, including Scranton, Pennsylvania. Nothing's changed for them on the ground. They didn't hit oil like, was it Jed, was his name Jed from the Beverly Hillbillies, go out and strike black gold. There's nothing that's changed for them. If they were going under 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, half of them would be under now. They have the same debt load. They have, okay, fine, there's somebody yelling out from their bathtub. They can refinance at lower and lower interest rates as interest rates move towards zero. Fine. Now that's enough to overcome their pension loads and all their prior ridiculous, pension obligations and all that stuff. So nothing's changed for them. I think hundreds of municipalities probably have failed. They simply are connected, tied into the mainframe here, and they get whatever they want in terms of or whatever they need. Very few people need to know about it, and it has no inflationary effect because, or very, very little inflationary effect. The money supply, if this thing has to create $1 billion a day just to save municipalities, then that puts more money supply or M whatever. M M is the money supply, the M to the FU, whatever it does, it doesn't matter. There's some inflation, and we're seeing, because the injections of what this thing needs to do to keep everything going is so massive. Um, we're seeing the inflation now, and it might never go away. I'm just saying the inflationary effect has been it's been genius the way it's managed it, considering the amount of money I think they have had to inject in the system over the last 15 years. I think an apple or a banana should be $20. One of them. I mean, it's it's been genius in the way it's managed it, but you can't keep a lid on it forever, and it's showing the inflationary side is showing up now. So let me just again the basics before we get to inflation and all this other stuff. Um, so look, it's very simple. Municipalities fail, city governments fail, state governments have failed, corporations you know have failed. They simply go here automatically. I think one bot talks to the other, and they just simply take what they need. This doesn't have to have any money. There's even no cat litter in here. Well, there is, but assume there isn't for this financial exercise. It's about well, a third full of cat litter, but it doesn't need any money because it can just create whatever it needs. And I don't think there has to be any human intervention. No one has to sit down and type it out. I think all the main companies are tied into it. It's just not possible, guys, that no major companies have failed. And don't be yelling at me about old stuff in the past, like Radio Shack, Kmart. Kmart was associated with Sears. Oh, come on, yeah, come on. They have to have a few companies like that go down just so to make it look believable. But it's completely unbelievable because nothing's gone down in the last year and a half, taking basically $1 trillion out of the economy because who's calling me now? Taking $1 trillion out of the economy just from tourism, and that's not going to have a ripple effect or an inflationary or a cumulative effect on accelerating this economic collapse. Of course it would, but if $1 trillion is taken out of the economy because of how annoying is that? If $1 trillion is taken out of the economy, what would be supportive of the economy because the flights didn't take off last year, nobody traveled anywhere, then this thing simply steps up and injects what it needs to keep everything going. Now, do I think it injects money to local mom and pop organizations or organizations with less than 50 employees and they're all in on it too? No, I don't think they could pull that off. There'd be too many people that have to remain quiet, and I don't think the world's very real, but they just hope it trickles down. And if you keep all the mega corporations going and you keep all their AVP and VPs, at 250,000, $800,000 a year, and you keep all those employees happy at it, and then they still have gardeners, and they still have flower bouquets, and they still have weddings, and it trickles down. But with all that injection, the only downside is inflation. The only downside is inflation because nothing can fail. This thing can just make up whatever it needs. It can make up $1 trillion a day if it wants. But you can't with that sort of cash and that much injection into the economy, which is false. The inflation, you can't keep a lid on it, and that's what's happening now, in my opinion. The stories are out there. You, car dealerships can't keep cars on the lots. My uncle is moving to Atlanta. He had to have his kid buy his house. He bought it. He bought it sight unseen because it would have sold in the first few hours if he didn't have his kid go over there. And he bought a house in Atlanta sight unseen. Probably that is obscene. He probably spent 5 or 10 thousand over asking. I mean, it's just some people would say the death nail or the death throes, if either of those are terms of the economy, it's showing itself now with the inflation, and it's hard to argue that. But guys, I moved away from those all of those YouTube channels. I'm not going to mention any names here. You know those YouTube channels. That was all from 2010 through. I don't know. Maybe they're still doing it. I was going to say through whatever. It was always the same cast of characters in their interviews, economic collapse, and these geniuses actually called for complete economic collapse if Brexit goes through. And, you know, oh, come on. It was, sorry, it was, if Brexit went through, they called for economic collapse. And the guests would come on and keep calling for it, and then Brexit would come and fine, the stock market melted down 1,000 points, and then it roared right back up to where it was 3 or 4 days later, and the guests never came on and said, "Let me tell you why I was wrong. Let me tell you why it didn't collapse." It was just like they just like it never happened, and the hosts of these channels never pressed their guests, so it's just I moved away from that, but also I saw probably a little over 4 years ago saying that you can't keep analyzing the economy and the financial markets as if they're real. They're run in some sort of a simulation. Of course, real people are in there and they're buying and selling their stocks, but if too many people sell a certain stock and the world simulation WhopR here doesn't want it, they'll just create it probably creates a fictitious account and buys up the 400 million shares that are sold by regular investors or even by mutual funds, like even, oh, well, I was going to say, but like Fidelity's Magellan or Vanguard Index 500, but no, no way. They're not. They're completely in on it. Of course, they are. Those people were taken into the back room and sat down, in my opinion, and they were said, look, we have to everything here, the major players, Vanguard Index 500, Fidelity, Magellan, all whatever, we all have to be tied together into this WhopR, or everything goes down. Did you see Mad Max, the Road Warrior? Do you want that thing in the hockey mask yelling at your daughter? Then you need to play ball here, and I'm sure. But it's tied in. Maybe this is what the snow cone machine makers are doing with their quantum computers. I don't know. Until somebody tells me quantum computers can do anything, to me it's a snow cone machine. It's a Geordie Rose signature, George Foreman style snow cone machine maker. But they're all tied in, and if anything were real market forces, real companies have to survive on their own. I think there would be 50 major companies over the past 5 years that would have gone down, and there would have been 50 major cities or municipalities that had to go into bankruptcy or restructure all their debt obligations, restructure all their pension obligations. And I'm sure, somebody could send me an article. Matt, this city, Los Angeles, had to restructure its deal for judges and firefighters. Okay, there's going to be some stories on that. They have to make it look real. But also, if anybody's yelling at me saying, um, and this is way too all over the place. This is not the basics that I wanted to, because it's hard to talk about in terms of a basic sense. Sorry, guys. Maybe I'll do another video and I'll write it out, type it out with the basics. But it is pretty basic. Matt, it's pretty basic. This thing basically just this simulation is the economy. Yes, yes. It doesn't need money. It can create $1 trillion a day if it wants. It injects it wherever it's needed. Whatever is tied into this system, it can inject. It doesn't need money to do it. It can create it. There doesn't have to be a lot of people on the other end in on it. Maybe the CFO and the CEO and a few people. But if anybody's yelling at me about the Fed's balance sheet, are you kidding me? The Fed's well, Matt, the Fed shows its balance sheet to the people. They're transparent about that, and the people can see when the Fed does injections or buys ridiculous CDOs and junk mortgages and everything. And they have to create the money or print the what did they call it back in the day, that quantitative easing, and then they'll tell you it stopped. It didn't stop. They'll tell you that whatever quantitative easing, they have to put 80 billion into they told you 80 billion was going in a month. It was like 800 billion probably. And they have to put it on the balance sheet so we can see, oh yeah, they do a lot out in the open. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. It's the balance. They do have a balance sheet that they show the idiots on CNBC that believe it. And I can't do it. I was going to say someone saying, but they don't. Matt, they're in on it. No, they're not. They're just talking heads that read from their teleprompter. They don't know crap. Look at Erin Burnett. She was their lead over there for years and years. Um, she's out front now. She's so smart. The whatever the talking heads on CNBC say about the Fed balance sheet, yeah, that's probably what they give the public. But then there's another balance sheet with just all the shit this thing's created on its own, trillions and trillions, and injected all over the place. So the inflationary effect is hitting now because this game is way past its time. And in terms of anybody screaming at me from their bathtub saying, "Well, do you think it's going to actually collapse?" Yeah, I'll talk about that on the back end. It'll show itself through inflation. You'll know through inflation. It's not going to be this dire stuff that all these YouTube channels that talked about the economic collapse for years and years, all this dire stuff that just everything will be fine, but you'll wake up one day and all the banks will be shut off and you won't have access to your money. You'll see it happening with the inflation. You see it now, but it'll get when the little old lady goes to buy an apple, and the apple is $10, then 1/4 of this country can't put food on the table then certain rioting starts, then they'll have to shut the system down. But they have it all, in my opinion, they have it all ready. They have another replacement system all ready to go. Of course they do. They're not going to be like, oh, what do we do? It's all, and it has to do with the experiment with cryptos. I mean, if anybody thinks that crypto, I mean, a big segment of the truth community, cryptos is just this nice altruistic people who are trying to go against the system. Are you kidding me? It was put there by the system. And then the cryptocurrencies inflated and run up to get people's attention, to get people involved in it that would have never been involved in it, to normalize and habituate it to people. Crypto started by some, but nobody truly understands how it works. And oh, Matt, I understand how blockchain works, but where it came from, and oh no, it's not. No, the system itself didn't put out Bitcoin. No, who would think that? Come on. Cheap. It's just these altruistic people that they're going against the system, Matt. They're trying to buck the trend of fiat currency. Yeah, okay, believe whatever you want. Um, so they have a crypto, the push for smartphones, the over aggressive push, so everybody has one. They'll simply, if the inflation, just really gets out of control, once this thing spits out its billions and billions and billions a second, probably I was going to say a day, a second. Once it spits, it can't take it back in. The company that needs it will take it, pay their people, turn the lights back on, and excuse me, it can't take it back in. In certain ways, it can, but it really it really can't. So once the inflation, unless you have a real, unless the only way they could rein in inflation is to drop a gigantic fake monetary crisis on the system itself, and then they can either have inflation or then they can push unemployment up to 30% for real, where not just statistically where you see just red lines and people, just every time you go to the shopping center there's 10, 20 people there begging for money, and they could go that route too if they need a little bit more time to hold on. But when the little old lady goes to buy apples and they're for a whole, let's say a whole bag of them this time, it's 15, $20 for a bag, and a quarter of the North America starts to starve. And I'm not saying this is around the corner. They've gotten this much out of it. They've gotten 20 years more out of it. If it was real, it should have failed 20 years ago with this WhopR system. So maybe they can squeak another 5 years out of it. It's just the inflation's not gonna go away. Um, the price of plywood, if it's up to $50 a sheet, exterior plywood, it probably ain't gonna ever go below 40. I mean, and then if it stabilizes, then it'll kick up again at some point, and they'll try to balance this runaway inflation with the economy and the price of plywood and the price of real things with the injections and the VPs at the drug companies will now be making four, five, six, seven, 800, $1 million with stock options for a senior VP. So they'll offset it, but it is a bomb that cannot be diffused. The inflation bomb will come at some point, but I think they have it. They have it. They have a system ready to go. In my opinion, what will happen is they'll simply, it'll be the crisis will be they'll head off a real crisis by 6 months. This thing will predict exactly when it's all going to blow up, or the bag of apples goes to $25, and then they'll fabricate a crisis of some kind. What I don't know what they'll blame or how they'll do it, but the U.S. monetary system will go down, the dollar will end, and excuse me, they'll say it's not a code to Chernobyl Center. They'll say good news. We have a whole system ready to go. And good news, they'll wipe out all debt. They'll wipe out all college loans. They'll just say, hey, if you just graduated from Columbia University and you have $280,000 of debt, some people get lucky in their life cycle. Everybody's all that sort of debt is going away. In my opinion, they'll say the only way the system can work is if we all start fresh. And if you had you're some rich guy up here on the main line and just kept all your money in the bank account or whatever, if you had 500,000 in the bank account and you're going to get you're going to get 100,000 UN credits or whatever the digital system they'll go to on your smartphone. You'll people will lose wealth, in my opinion, big time, and it'll everybody will start with, and if you have nothing, they'll still start you out, with my opinion, with because well, why not? It's just all being created from scratch. They'll start you out with 10,000 UN credits. Everybody will be at the very top. The rich that don't even need money will still have their privilege. The people that Bill Gates jokes makes knock jokes with in their cocktail parties and the eyes wide shut parties. But I think like the regular rich down the Bryn Mawr down here in Villanova, people with a net worth of 5, 10, 12 million. I think there'll be a big normalization. I think they'll lose a ton, and I think the people that have nothing, the kid that graduated college just hanging out in his parents' basement is just disenfranchised, if that's the right word, just playing PlayStation all day long. This person that had everything will end up with 500,000 UN credits, and this kid will get 50,000, so that they'll get a lot closer. And then the economy will just go back to work. It's like they'll just say, well, whatever you were doing, what were you doing today? I was making rocking chairs. Well, go out and make rocking chairs, but just figure out how much to sell it for UN credits now, whatever. I don't know what they're going to call it. Credits on your smartphone. I think, yeah, will it be? It'll be bad for a month or two or three or four. I mean, but not nearly the Mad Max Road Warrior situation that people think. I mean, that all these these end of the world economic collapse YouTube channels talked about. You should have, if some of you haven't left them behind, are they still talking about the same thing? It's like, well, I believed it too, but I kind of wised up. 2000 and I don't know, 16 or 17, I started going, well, wait a second. This is the only way this is still going on, is if the entire economy was moved into a simulation. There's no other explanation. It has to be that. You know, I mean, what else is it? So, guys, to summarize, the inflation will be, is when I go to Target and it's pushing almost $20 to get paper towels, and my uncle has to buy a house in Atlanta sight unseen because he has to have his kid run over there and bid on it, like, or whatever, the first hour it's up for sale. And car dealerships, somebody, a good friend said to me a story about the last the last Escalade. It's like a Disney movie or something. The last Mohican, the last Escalade was on the lot, and the guy was like, well, I don't know, like you just jacked the price up 10,000. Someone's like, I'll take it, 100 over 100,000 for the last Escalade. That's like the Last Starfighter. There's a lot of the movies, The Last. They can make another series of movies with sequels. The Last Escalade, about a a Cadillac that nobody wants, that somebody bid $110,000 for. Oh boy, 100. That's the same stories. That's in the WTC 1 and 2. That must be a code of some kind. Um, Guys, look, the inflation. Um, this is where they put their money. This is where they put their chips. The only way, if the inflation, we're seeing it now, we're just seeing it now. Can they keep it somewhat in check? Can they maybe they're saying, we need a little bit more time. We need another 2 years. And if it gets too ridiculous, the inflation, again, the only way to combat it is to create some sort of a real or manufactured crisis. But there's no other, you have to then you have a 1929 depression situation. There's no in between at this point. You want to keep the price of paper towels from going to $40, and then well, maybe they could, Matt, they could they're shrinking it already. Maybe they can just put paper, what do you call it, cardboard rolls in the paper towels. Just cardboard rolls with one towel. That's all you'll end up getting. The price will still be $19 and something, but you'll open it up. It'll just be, that cardboard center. Well, maybe they'll have like 5 paper towels wrapped around. They'll be like this thin instead of, it's just going down and down and down the size of a paper towel so they can keep reaching their price point. They'll continue to play that game as long as they can, but you can't have it both ways. If the inflation is exploding, the only way to get a check of it is a crisis in the economy, real or manufactured or whatever. But then it does send tens of millions of people out on the streets, basically. The 1929 times 10, soup kitchens, people begging for food, a whole class of people that simply can't, pay rent, simply can't put food on the table. And I know there's a lot of people now. A lot. I picked up a flyer for a homeless shelter the other day, and it said that, we're not just dealing with the homeless here, we also assist the houseless, they're calling it. So there is a whole class, like teachers that live in their car in Sunnyvale, California. Even though they have a full-time job with benefits, they're still having to live in their car because they can't afford the Silicon Valley rents. There is a whole class of that, of course, but it's not like what I'm saying is if you want to rein in inflation of where it's going, then I'm talking about 50 million people in that situation where, minimal government assistance, soup kitchen. I mean, just you'll know one or two people in your family that simply are ready to be put out, or have to come back in to live with the uncle or the parents, and it just hasn't happened. So at least for now, the way they're running this thing is to keep the economy going until they're completely ready to switch over to the digital system. And then Matt, you talk like there's no other way to do this. It's not like I don't, and then Ben Bernanke's crew, they probably paid these consultants $100,000 a day to come up with this stuff. Well, there's no other option. No genius. There's no, of course, the U.S. dollar can't go on and on and on and on. Take what are you going to? The debt will go to towards 30 trillion. That'll go to 40 trillion. I mean, again, you can actually, if running everything through this thing, you can do it forever, forever. No doubt about it. You can do it forever, of course. There's no limit on the number of zeros, but it's the inflation of people that work a regular job, a little old lady on a fixed income, a carpenter, a person that walks dogs. They simply will not be able to, even for what they make, even buy a McDonald's hamburger. They will not be able to eat. It's so they can keep it going forever, 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 ever, forever, ever. Outcast. But then people can't. 50 million people simply can't, are starving to death. So at that point, you know, maybe we'll deal with that for a few years. But at some point, they'll just say, okay, enough of this. They'll pull the plug, implement the digital system. The the fake rich, not their, the people that even on the Forbes and Fortune list are the fake rich compared to who really runs things. But the people up here in Villanova and Ardmore and Bryn Mawr and Radnor, just person after person, whether they inherited it or they worked their corporate job for 40 years, they, $1.5 million net worth, $8 million net worth. You could just go house after house, probably 10 million net worth, 6 million net worth. All those people, it'll be normal. I mean, once this thing implodes, in my opinion, um, those people will get here they are now to your college kids that just came home to live with you. They have nothing. They will never be able to afford a house, can't afford a car. That's why all these leases are dirt cheap now. That's artificially supported. They want you to lease. That whole economic um, whatever those monsters in the economic form or whatever it's called. They don't deserve me to remember the name properly. You'll own nothing and like it. We'll call that the economic version of Judge Smales dealing with Spalding. You'll get nothing and like it. He goes, I want a hot dog, I want a hamburger. You'll get nothing and like it, Spalding. This is we'll just call it the Judge Smales Spalding way of dealing with people in the economy going forward. You'll own nothing and like it. And so the kid that's living in your basement he'll get a lot closer to those people that were living up in Bryn Mawr, but they'll still own their house, and they're not going to kick people out of their houses or anything like that. But they just won't have the net worth. The super rich, of course, protected, privileged, nothing will happen to them, of course. I'm talking about you just go, again, you go down here, Ardmore, Villanova, it's just where's this money coming from? Talking with a good friend yesterday, and we don't know where it's coming from. That's a reality breakdown, but I don't want to get, who knows where this is going to go. I don't want to get too conspiratorial. It's appropriate for this video because who knows who's going to see this. People that typically don't dabble in the types of things that we talk about. So um, just the if anybody, I'm not here to I can't make predictions. I'm not in any way, oh, I have to say this, I guess to be safe. I'm not licensed. I'm not a financial analyst. I have no credentials. I have no license. I'm not giving anybody economic advice. In my protection, the last time I looked, when a paper towel when a bunch of paper towels goes to almost $20, I'm allowed to talk about what might happen to the economy and how they might be keeping it going. That's not financial advice. So I've got to put that out there because who knows who'll run with what. I mean, so last time I looked under the First Amendment, we're allowed to ponder what might be going on here. That's what I'm doing. But so I'm allowed to put out what I think for myself what will happen to the stock market in my own interpretation for myself, not giving anybody any information, and I'm certainly, you know, not I'm okay. That's been clear. I'm not in the financial services business. Um, Got to put those stupid visos out. I think when inflation comes ridiculous, the stock market goes with it, um, as you see now. Um, it could run up to ridiculous levels. Um, Along with the price of paper towels. I don't know. Again, I'm no expert. I believe it's run inside the simulation completely. Real people put their own money into it, but in terms of whether it goes up or down is run by the simulation, completely fake. If people, in my opinion, people sell and millions of people, retail investors, go to little Edward Jones office and sell at the wrong time, and this thing doesn't like it, it will simply create fake accounts and create fake money and bump it back up. I think it's that simple. But it probably will run with inflation. But well, what are you doing in that area, man? Nothing. I want no part of it energetically. I will not. I mean, I see this life itself is such a ridiculous little train stop. I want no part of giving my money a manifestation of energy. I don't care if the Dow runs up with inflation to 50 or 70,000. I don't care by my heel. I care not. For 1 second, I think I have missed out on it. Are you kidding me? I mean, who knows what? I'm not involved in it. I don't want to be involved in it. I don't care how predictive, if you can predict it. I don't care if the ghost of Steve Jobs himself comes, knocks on my door, and gives me a tip on Apple. The ghost of Steve Jobs himself, his skinny ass self in his black shirt, still etherically presenting itself at my door. You can still see the outline of how he looked in the Apple conventions. What were they called? They called Macworld or whatever. Macworld. I don't care. I said, I don't want your tip, Steve Jobs. I don't care if you can make money in the market. I'll never put a penny into it because to me it's like putting a part of yourself into a cesspool bucket. But if you, again, guys, I'm not saying, I'm not, if you got 3 kids to put through college, or I'm not saying, do what you need to do and repent later. That's like what the guy, they were in Kingdom of Heaven, the what is his name? The Saracen leader. Um, it was Orlando Bloom. He decided to stay behind. They all fled. He was leading or defending Jerusalem in Kingdom of Heaven, and the Saracens were coming. The leper king had already died, and God, I don't know. I'll think of his name later. It doesn't matter. But the bishop, he goes to Orlando Bloom and he's like, "We can't. That army out there on the horizon. We can't deal with that. We're all gonna die." He's like, "Just give yourself over to or take on. I was gonna take on Islam, but what do you call it? Accept Islam. I'm not using the right words. And we'll repent later. Repent later." And Orlando Bloom's like, no. I mean, Orlando, I don't love him as an actor, but he was very. I like his character in Kingdom of Heaven. Heaven, very noble. Like, no, we're not gonna do that. Not gonna make a ton of money in the stock market and then repent later. No, if you have to for the sake of your kids or whatever, you may have you might You might want to do that. You might, because you have an excuse. I don't. I'll still be able to buy cat food either way. I don't buy anything else. So, um, I love also what is the very simple slogan. It's like a truth drop in Kingdom of Heaven. I came for an economic collapse video guy. Get to it. What is this bullshit? Sorry. The people here, we do some sidebars from time to time. He says, oh gosh, what is the saying? Um, um, Never lie, even if it leads to your, never, always tell the truth, even if it leads to your death. Be upright and just before God. Defend the weak and protect the helpless, and always be a good knight. This is your oath. Bam! And that is so you remember it. It's a pretty good oath, no matter what your viewpoints are. If you watch the movie, that is basically the way to live your life. It has nothing to do with any particular religion. So, anyway, guys, that's basically it. Is there anything I missed? I don't think so. I think it was all over the place, and maybe I'll just have to write out a one page as to what, if this was a little bit confusing. But it is very simple. At some point, they just put the entire economy in this, and this manages everything. Human beings don't. The money injections go out everywhere, and I guess there's a few more things to talk about. Um, when we were studying, when people believed all this stuff was real, and we were studying how the economy works, I was watching all the economic collapse stuff. I was watching CNBC 2005 through 2010 every day, trying to understand how all this works. I was still in the stock market. Um, you hear the same themes over and over, and I believed at some point all of these themes were real. You'd hear about how everything was tied into each other. You'd hear about how banks are tied into each other and lend to each other, LIBOR, whatever this BS is. And the message was clear across the board, and it probably was this way, that the system became so interdependent on itself that if one major element of it went down, it could cause a ripple effect or a domino effect that could affect everything. And that absolutely still might be the case, and that could be the reason that this thing knows nothing can go down. Just a basic example. A certain auto company can't open its doors. I mean, think of the ripple just one major corporation blowing up could cause, where a certain auto company can't open up in the morning. They can't make payroll, or they can't pay their vendors or suppliers or whatever. So this thing knows it needs, I don't know, $120 million. And here come it creates the money in a millisecond, and it just sends it. And it can do that whenever it wants in an unlimited fashion. So then this motor company, the suppliers come with their parts, they get paid, the people come to work, they don't know anything happened in the middle of the night. That's overwhelmingly what's happening. Now, they'll look at it, of course, as the lesser of two evils. They'll say, if it doesn't, if we let the economy be real, or what they're probably still teaching in college as to how things work, then a certain auto company, pick one, can't open up in the morning, or at least five other factories have to shut down. Those employees, oh, can't make payroll, so then they go into panic mode. They don't buy locally, or at least initially they might panic buy, but then after 2 weeks they won't spend anything. The trip is canceled to Disney World. The trip to Six Flags is canceled. Whatever. The vendors and suppliers start to scramble because there's a huge payment that they needed. Then they start laying people off. The ripple effect can happen so quickly in how interdependent the economy is on each other. That's why nothing's gone down, in my opinion. Nothing can go down. Even the psychological effect of the psychological effect with it being reported on the news. I know they cover everything up, but if I don't know, a major corporation went under, even the news is going to be like, is there any way we can just I don't know, just present the news without mentioning it? We're gonna have to talk about this one. Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about it, even though well we fake everything. I know, just we're gonna have to talk about it because people will be like, why isn't the news mentioning that? And they might be skeptical of the news when we really push our bullshit on them. Okay, we have to look legitimate. So then people will panic and start canceling trips and then see then I mean it is. I don't want to get too conspiratorial. We'll talk about this stuff, the real way out stuff related to the economy and what might be going on some other time. But a guy like, my friend Tony, he just thinks and he's a smart guy. He worked on the phones for Vanguard mutual funds. He would take people's calls. He went through business school. He's smart. I mean, but he's just, I don't want to get too conspiratorial as to explain, when I say words like download, and I don't want to go there in this video, but to him, it's completely normal. Um, He might, I mean, if he had to give a little bit, he might say, if he was really pushed, he would say, well, I guess it's a little odd that the cruise ships still are in business after what happened and nobody could travel for a year and but it's they'd be hard pressed. They have a way to these people have a way to explain away everything. And on the CNBC group for years, they told us how the travel industry, mostly airlines, operated like week to week, and that's why a lot of their stock prices are so low, and their trading instruments, and if they don't have hundreds of millions of dollars sitting around, if they don't fly, they go under. I mean, this is what we were told accurately for 30 years about a lot of the entertainment or vacation industry, or I don't know, maybe Viking River cruises or Norwegian cruise lines or airlines. Maybe a major one like Delta or Southwest had some money sitting around that could weather a 2 or 3 week storm, or if they had to, or a month. But basically, nobody went anywhere in the world for 6 months. Basically, the flights were down at one point. They had to have been down 80, 90%. Some countries weren't allowing in flights. So these businesses didn't have, I mean, especially you get into the cruise lines, they didn't have hundreds of millions sitting around they can weather the storm. Everybody magically weathered the storm. I mean, they got money, obviously. How else did they get through it? But, guys like my friend like Tony, I don't know what he would say. Like, how does he explain how everybody just magically weathered the storm? And even if you'd say, well, Matt, people have to work from home, Best Buy, they were a real, they benefited because people, and I remember, but there was at one point, Pam bought her laptop. There was like no laptops on the shelf because everybody had to work from home and the laptops. Some companies did benefit, but because of when nobody leaves their house, basically for 6 months around the entire world, you could line up hundreds of companies that are going to be severely affected by that. And if not directly, I mean, look at the vacationers going in to see the Great Pyramid. Nobody goes for 6 months because of this thing. But then there's trickle down. Well, the people that sell the T-shirts, hey, I saw the three pyramid. People that depend on the tourist money coming in, then they can't go buy their big screen TVs or whatever, even if it's not direct, the ripple effect. But nobody went under. And it is I don't want to get too conspiratorial because I could very easily hear I think there's some things going on that the likes of which don't fit into a normal conversation like this. But it would I'm outside of Philadelphia, and just even the mom and pop stores, the diners, I don't understand how they're still all here considering what we went through from March through from March through all of 2020 to February of 2021. I don't know how they all just had, they're all so successful and all so smart that they had 50, 80, 90,000 just for their business account sitting around, and they use their own personal funds to keep their businesses afloat, and they had hundreds of thousands sitting around. And there are a few examples, guys. I mean, somebody told me like Reno's, which is like a little Italian place that I used to go to down on Route 30, Lancaster Avenue, went under. I didn't know because they just spent $50,000 on remodeling like weeks before this happened and closed their doors. But that, to me, that should have happened. We all, if you live in some suburbia with a lot of businesses and restaurants, and like I'm outside of Philadelphia, there should be, I don't know. There should be 10 made companies that or businesses or mom and pop breakfast shops that you could point to and say they just at least 10 to 15 locally, just in a few square miles down the road. And at least in Philadelphia, it's like, there's a few exceptions like Reno's, but like nothing happened. And I don't know how that, I can't explain it. It doesn't make sense. On top of that, on top of how everybody should have been hurt because nobody was going out in the house and they weren't, there was a few things, again, they might have gobbled up laptops, there's weird things with automobiles, but generally when people aren't leaving the house, they're not spending the way, they aren't just going to the mall and going to Old Navy. They're not the whole, I don't know how statistically they show you how the economy grew. It's not possible. It's not possible. So the ripple effect, even if you go, they'll never show you negative GDP because the whole thing will implode probably if they show you negative GDP. But if there was a negative 2 or 3 quarters, this thing made up for it somehow, injected where it needed to. But I don't know. It's just how this is, and it's beyond this. I don't. There's ways and means they have ways to keep this going that probably are not suited for this sort of conversation. Get a little strange. Um, but the inflation is the reason I made it's here, and can they keep it in check one more time? Not going to go back. That roll of paper towels at Target ain't never going to go down to 14.50. Or they're going to make them bigger again, and it's never going to go back. It's just if they can hold on, they can hold on and keep certain key price points. Um, it is the inflation is bad signs with people bidding on houses sight unseen. And where's the money even coming from? Um, there's like where's the massive layoffs that should have happened with nobody leaving the house for the most part for a year? It's again some things going on that aren't maybe we'll never quite understand. But in terms of the decisions for our own lives, um, it's all about the inflation. Watch the inflation very carefully. And what I didn't mention this, the most important thing for me is to the only way to guard against it is to purchase real things. Um, if somebody had a shed out back and they saw 2 years ago they sniffed out of it's in 1975 a 4x8 sheet of plywood, 3/4 inch exterior plywood was $7. All right, and then they went to Home Depot and it was like $35 2 years ago, or $38, close to 40. Now it's probably well over 50. Um, for 3/4 inch, probably maybe even 55. I don't know. But if somebody would have sniffed that out a few years ago and said, "I have a shed out back I'm not using," and they would have simply bought, 20 sheets of plywood. Well, that is nothing. It doesn't go bad. You could store for 50 years. Nothing ever if it's inside. And then they would have doubled, tripled their money that way. But that's a way of making money buying real things. The other thing though is like you know a good example is Pam with her roof. I told her she has an old townhouse and the roof is the original townhouse from the roof. Townhouse from the roof. Roof from the townhouse. And I said, you're going to need it. You can't just keep, shingles are falling off. You need it, so it's better to do it now because, oh, I'll do it later. I had it inspected and it's okay for now. But now she finally sees that if she would have had the roof put on when I said to do it, it would have been about $1,000 less than it is now. And I just called her this morning and I said, do you want to pay another 1,000? Get it done. So if there's anything major like that, um, in my opinion, if the inflation is here to stay, the opposite of happy days are here again. Um, a new heating air conditioning system, putting it off. Oh no, it'd be better to do it now because it ain't gonna be $500 cheaper in the future. If inflation gets out of check, it could be $4,000 more in the future. A roof could be $5,000 more in the future. So any major home repair would make sense to do it now, and because if you've got them, if your money's just sitting in an account, it's being debased every day. Turn it into even this stuff. You just got line this shit up. I mean, even this ain't go. I don't think it goes bad for a few years. You just like, I mean, this. I'd rather have my money in this. No, now I'm not talking about the WhopR sentient world simulation running the financial. I'm talking tidy cats. I mean, I'd rather have my money in this than if it's sitting in some bank being debased, and every day it's worth nothing because your paper towels are going up and up, and your dollar's not keeping pace with it. So any heating air conditioning system, new roof, my favorite of all time. There's no better if you live in the Northeast or the cold 25, real cold 25 states, a wood stove. I mean, to turn useless. You don't even have you go down to the bank there, you don't even have your money. It's just some number that shows up on a piece of papers. You go down and say, I want to see my money. There ain't nothing here. Show you an empty room. There's nothing there. It's all on the computer. To turn that useless bullshit that's some fiat currency sitting on a statement into a 400-pound wood stove that's going to last for 50 years. There's no better way I call it, I used to call it, what did I used to call it? Laundering your own money, turning into something real. Um, what, and I'm not talking about buying something that immediately depreciates, or a car, or a laptop. You know, somebody, I don't know, like somebody say, this basement is finished or whatever. If we let's put a floor down or whatever, and a real good quality floor that'll last our whole lifetimes or whatever, because that shit's just going to get more and more and more expensive. Anything real, anything of value that's real and useful will get more and more expensive, and could get shockingly so if they don't keep the inflation in check. Oh boy, what a nice group of people we have running the show. What an absolute What an absolute group of monsters. And they would, if you interviewed every one of them, they would say that it's very sophisticated managing this, and you'd be, if it wasn't for us, you've seen the Road Warrior. I'm sure every one of them believes they've done tremendous things for us, and we should be very and eternally grateful. Um, and No way. It is very difficult now to, that Jabba the Hutt behemoth is holding up the whole thing. I mean, just to get rid of it now, it would be like Mad Max. But It never needed to be. 99% of it never needed to be in the first place. But they would say how grateful we should be that they managed everything so properly. Sorry, guys, for straying whenever I strayed, and hope it wasn't too all over the place. Thanks for listening.